should be on. Good evening.
Yeah.
Pastor Phillips, thank you for that nice introduction and also the prayer. I am your state's chief fiscal officer, the comptroller. I just want to briefly reach out to everyone in Maryland who is going through the kinds of fiscal crisis that we read about in the paper. And I don't think there's any doubt that this country is going through the most serious challenge that it's had since the Great Depression. Some have compared the impact on what we're going through now as to the United States to what happened during the Second World War as far as magnitude. And it's causing a lot of pain in ordinary Marylanders' lives. They see their pensions and their retirements threatened. They see their college funds for their kids damaged. They're concerned about their jobs and their homes, foreclosures, and they have a right to be, because we are entering what can only be described as a very long and severe recession. We're going to manage our way through that, because we're a strong state, we're a powerful state, we've got great people, we're a great country. We're going to hold our heads up high and we're going to go through it. But as we go through it, I think we have to reach out and remember that our neighbors and our friends are going through a terrible period of fear and anxiety. And none of us, frankly, are going to be in the line that's forming for the bailout. That's all going to a small number of banks and individuals in New York. Your money is being spent by a handful of people in Washington who are going to bail out people in New York, many of whom have profited from this debacle. Literally, the international banking structure is crumbling. So what do? We spend your money to bail out the banks. Just like a small number of people in Washington and New York are spending your money on a bailout that you're never going to participate in or have a voice in, so have a small number of people, a tiny number of people in Annapolis, figured out how to give a bailout to the national gambling industry in the form of a constitutional amendment, if you can believe it, and take our most sacred government document, amend it in order to legalize 15,000 slot machines all through the state of Maryland. And they tell you all of the great propaganda about how this is really for the benefit of the state, how it's going to help our kids, as if the national gambling industry cares about our kids, how it's going to keep our taxes low, as if the very people that brought the record tax increase less than a year ago to Maryland are not now the chief proponents of this constitutional amendment to bring slot machines to Maryland. But what they don't tell you is that this amendment allows the national gambling industry to have a guaranteed $300 to $400 million per year in perpetuity that will come out of the pockets of hardworking families in Maryland and individuals that are lured to these slot machines. $300 to $400 million a year going out of the state of Maryland to the special interests and the gambling industry. And an extra $100 million in new spending of your money is going in a no-strings-attached bailout of the horse industry. So in this time of economic crisis, when your friends and neighbors are wondering whether they should take literally the money out of the bank down the road and put it under their mattress. That's how panicked individuals are. A small number of insiders in Annapolis have managed to put a windfall constitutional amendment for the gambling industry that will send hundreds of millions of your dollars out of state. I think of the pastor a couple of weeks ago who told me about a young woman with her infant. She was at the grocery store at the checkout counter. She had an item. And she said to the clerk, "I'd like to buy a lottery ticket." And the clerk said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you don't have enough money for both your item and the ticket." She said, "Well, let me buy the ticket. Maybe I'll have some money." And so she bought the ticket, and the clerk rubbed it off, and she lost. And she had to walk away with her infant, leaving a bottle of children's cough medicine at the register. Or the businessman in Western Maryland that I met with several days ago who described for me, he's a very successful businessman. He's got a $50 million company, tremendous success in Western Maryland. He said his top worker, foreman, gentleman who's his hardest worker, has been with him for 20 years, pays him, he says, I approximately pay him about $1,700 a week. Doesn't have a nickel to his name. Doesn't have a home, divorced, alienated from his children. All because whatever he makes from his hard work, he takes a short distance away to Charlestown, West Virginia, and loses it at the slot machines. This gentleman said to me, what is it that the state of Maryland is embarking on? Where are the family values that are represented by bringing those slot machines from West Virginia right into the middle of our neighborhoods? On Sunday, I was at a wonderful church in Baltimore City, Pastor. Packed, good citizens. Family values were right at the top of the priority. We finished our talk and we had some good spiritual exchanges. So I was leaving, a woman came up to me and she said, "You know, I have a college degree, but I was bankrupted by my addiction to slot machine gambling. And just now, because of the church, I've been able to come into a family and get my feet underneath me again, and I'm going to be okay. But please do whatever you can to keep this out of our community." And so tonight, I'm delighted to join with your pastor, applaud him for his leadership in sponsoring this forum. I applaud the other panelists who will be speaking. Delegate Smeagol is one of the great leaders in Annapolis. I salute him for his courage and his convictions and his principles and his values. We don't always agree on every issue. But Delegate Smeagol has stood up and made his voice heard when so many have been silent on this issue. And the other great panelists, Aaron Meisner is here, and Valerie Lorenz, who's a national figure on this subject, and Mr. Bowers and Mr. Feister and others that are going to be speaking. They will have a lot of good information for you. But I just ask you tonight to ask yourselves, what kind of state is it that you want to live in?